Have you ever walked past a house so silent, so empty, that it feels like the walls are watching you? You tell yourself it's just old wood creaking, or maybe the wind whispering through broken windows, but deep down, your gut knows something isn't right. Tonight, I want to take you inside 10 abandoned houses, each with stories that will make your skin crawl and your heart race. These aren't your typical ghost tales or stories from movies. They're real experiences told by people who lived through them. Some ended with questions, some with fear that never faded, and some with events that can't be explained at all. You might think you'd be safe just watching, but are you really? Welcome to our channel, where we explore the darkest corners of reality and uncover true horror stories that will haunt your thoughts. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a chilling story. Tonight, we're diving into abandoned houses, the kind of places that lure curiosity and punish it with terror. Each story is told from a first-person perspective, slow-burning, and as realistic as it gets. Get ready to experience fear in its rawest form. And remember, in these houses, nothing is ever as it seems. Story 1. The house at the end of Maple Street. I had always been drawn to abandoned places. Something about their decay fascinated me. The way life once thrived and then vanished. So when I saw the old Victorian at the end of Maple Street, I knew I had to explore it. The windows were boarded up, but one on the second floor had a loose plank. I slipped inside carefully, the smell of mold and rot hitting me immediately. My flashlight caught the wallpaper peeling from the walls and the floorboards creaking under every step. The house felt alive, not in a welcoming way, but as if it was breathing, waiting. I made my way through the first floor, careful not to step on broken glass. There were remnants of life. A cracked picture frame, a dusty chair tipped over, a child's shoe in the corner. It all felt like someone had just left, like they would walk back any second. Then I heard it, a soft shuffle above me. My heart raced. I tried to rationalize it, maybe an animal, maybe the wind, but the sound was deliberate, moving slowly across the second floor. My curiosity overpowered fear. I climbed the rickety stairs, each step groaning under my weight. At the top, the hallway was long, lined with doors. The shuffle had stopped. I reached the room with the broken window and shone my flashlight inside. The room was empty, but then I saw it, a small handprint pressed into the dust on the windowsill. I froze. I had been alone on the stairs. No one had come up. I glanced around, the room feeling impossibly cold. Something whispered my name, soft and distant. My stomach dropped. I bolted down the stairs and out the front door, not daring to look back. But when I reached the sidewalk, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Across the street, in the yard of a house I had never noticed before, a figure stood watching me, completely still. I couldn't see its face, just a shadow, and then it disappeared into the darkness. I never went back. To this day, I wonder, was the house just empty, or was I never truly alone? Story 2. The empty nursery. I had been working as a property inspector for a while, mostly checking vacant houses for insurance purposes. That job had exposed me to a lot of abandoned homes, but one house still haunts me. It was a small, 2-story house on the outskirts of town, condemned for years after a family mysteriously disappeared. Nothing particularly stood out at first, except the nursery on the second floor. The door was slightly ajar, and the first thing I noticed was the smell, a mixture of dust, mildew, and something else faintly metallic. I stepped inside, flashlight cutting through the darkness, and saw the crib. Everything was intact, perfectly preserved, like someone had just left in a hurry. A mobile above the crib swung slightly, even though the air was still. I crouched to inspect the crib, and that's when I saw it. Scribbles on the wall, tiny handprints, and a note, smudged but readable. "Don't wake them." My heart pounded. I called out, but only my voice echoed back. Then I heard a faint giggle, soft, almost childlike, from behind the crib. I froze. I thought maybe it was the wind or rats, but the giggle came again, this time from the closet. I approached slowly. Inside, there was nothing, just old clothes and toys, but the sense of being watched was overwhelming. I stepped back, my light flickering, and for a split second, I thought I saw a face peering from the corner of the room, a pale, hollow-eyed child that vanished before I could focus. I left immediately, but the image stayed with me. Days later, I returned to gather my notes for the report, and the nursery had changed. The crib was overturned, the walls scratched with new marks. It was as if someone or something was still living there, waiting. I never went back. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can hear that giggle. Story 3. The basement door that screamed. I had moved into a small apartment above a closed-down store in an old part of town. The building was over a century old, and I loved exploring its nooks and corners. One night, while unpacking boxes, I noticed a basement door tucked behind a false panel in the hallway. It had a rusty handle and no lock. Curious, I pulled it open. The stairs led down into darkness. I flicked on my flashlight and shone it across the damp concrete walls. The smell hit me instantly, mold, decay, and something coppery. I thought it might just be old pipes, but the air felt thick, suffocating. As I stepped further, I noticed marks on the walls, deep scratches, as if something had clawed its way through. Then I heard it, a soft, almost human scream, muffled, coming from somewhere deep in the basement. My hand trembled, but curiosity kept me moving. I followed the sound to a small, windowless room at the back. The light from my flashlight revealed chains attached to the wall, swaying slightly as if someone or something had been recently there. I froze. The scream came again, closer this time, right behind me. I spun around, shining the light, but nothing was there. My pulse raced. Something was definitely down here with me, or had been. I bolted up the stairs, slammed the door, and locked it. That night, I swore I heard scratching under my bedroom floor. It never stopped. Every night, soft, desperate sounds like someone trying to get out or get in. I moved shortly after, but even now, I wonder if I ever truly left that basement behind. Story 4. The mirror in the attic. I used to love exploring attics. There was something about the quiet, the forgotten relics of the past. One abandoned house I visited had an attic that felt wrong. The stairs creaked as I climbed, and the air grew colder with each step. At the top, I found a large, ornate mirror leaning against the wall. The glass was pristine, but I felt uneasy as I stared into it. For a moment, my reflection seemed off. My movements lagged behind my own actions. I laughed nervously, thinking it was a trick of the shadows. I turned away, but when I glanced back, the reflection was still staring at me, smiling. I wasn't. I stumbled back, heart pounding, and noticed faint fingerprints appearing on the mirror, as if someone else had been touching it. Then a whisper came, soft but clear, "Don't leave me here." I whipped around, empty room. The air felt heavy, and I could almost hear breathing behind me. I ran down the stairs, vowing never to return. Weeks later, a friend dared me to go back. Against my better judgment, I did. The mirror was gone, but on the wall where it had stood, scratched into the plaster were the words, "I followed you." I've never been back to an attic since, and I always check mirrors twice. Story 5. The neighbor who never left. I rented a small house in a quiet suburb, thrilled at the peace after years in the city. The neighborhood seemed empty most days, except for one house across the street. There was always a figure on the porch, staring at me. I assumed it was a retired neighbor or someone lonely, so I tried to smile and wave. The figure never waved back, just stared. After a few weeks, I noticed something strange. Whenever I left my house, the figure was outside, watching. Always. One night, returning from work, I saw the figure in my driveway, standing just beyond the light of my porch lamp. My heart raced. I called out, but it didn't move. I backed into my house, locking every door. The next morning, I found footprints leading from my front door to the empty lot beside my house. But when I checked security footage, nothing was there, just shadows moving across the frame, distorted and flickering. I confronted the landlord, asking if anyone had access to the house, and he looked at me confused. "No one has lived there in years," he said. Weeks passed, but I could always feel eyes on me. One evening, I saw the figure in my backyard. Not the street, not the lot, my backyard, standing silently, watching me through the window. I packed my things that night and left. I still don't know who or what lives across the street. And sometimes, when I visit the neighborhood, I swear the figure is still standing there, waiting. Story 6. The locked room upstairs. I was house sitting for a friend in a large, old farmhouse on the outskirts of town. Everything seemed normal at first, quiet, isolated, perfect for a weekend getaway. But there was one door upstairs that was always locked. My friend told me it was just storage, but there was something in her tone that made me uneasy. Curiosity got the better of me, and late at night, I found a hairpin and picked the lock. The door creaked open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Dust covered the floor, but there were signs of recent use. A chair slightly pulled out, a notebook lying open, and faint footprints in the dirt. My heart raced as I bent down to inspect the notebook. Inside were pages of scribbled dates and names, mine included. Suddenly, I heard the main door downstairs slam. I froze, realizing the house was supposed to be empty. I grabbed my flashlight and crept down the hallway. Every floorboard groaned under my weight. When I reached the living room, it was empty, but the front door was wide open, swaying in the wind. I ran outside, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. But as I reached my car, I noticed footprints in the grass, leading from the locked room upstairs to my driveway. I never told my friend what I saw, and when I returned to check on the house weeks later, the locked room was gone, as if it never existed. But sometimes at night, I swear I hear the floorboards above me creak in the same rhythm as that room. Story 7. The sound of someone breathing. I was exploring an abandoned apartment complex that had been condemned for over a decade. The place was silent, except for the occasional drip of water and the scuttle of rats. I was halfway through the building when I felt it, a presence. At first, I thought it was just anxiety. Then I heard it breathing, slow, deliberate, echoing down the hallway behind me. My flashlight flickered as I turned around. Nothing. I kept moving, telling myself it was my imagination, but the sound followed. Each time I stopped, it stopped. Each time I moved, it moved. I reached the stairwell and climbed to the second floor, heart pounding. The breathing became heavier, almost whispering, though I couldn't make out words. I reached an apartment at the end of the hall. The door was ajar, light spilling in from the street lamps outside. Inside, it was empty, just dusty furniture and broken glass. I stepped in and froze. Written on the wall in what looked like blood, barely legible, were the words, "I've been waiting." I bolted down the stairs and out the front door, never looking back. Even now, when I'm alone at night, I hear it, a slow, deliberate breath, echoing somewhere just behind me. Story 8. The phone that rang. I had just moved into a small, old apartment in a city I barely knew. The building was mostly empty, and the previous tenant had left behind a landline phone. I hadn't plugged it in until one evening when I decided to test it. The moment I did, it rang. I answered nervously. No one spoke, just heavy breathing on the other end. I hung up, thinking it was a prank. But it rang again, and this time I recognized a voice, a whisper of my name, almost like someone standing right next to me. I unplugged it, but the next day the phone was back in the same spot, cords stretched across the floor. I called the landlord, who claimed he hadn't been there, but I could hear someone moving in the empty apartment. That night it rang again. I answered, heart racing, and a voice whispered, "Why did you leave me?" The phone stopped ringing. I unplugged it for good and moved out the next day. But months later, when I visited a friend in the same building, I saw the phone still there, cord coiled neatly, as if waiting for me to pick it up again. Story 9. The shadow in the hall. I was house-sitting in a suburban home while the owners were away on vacation. It was a normal night. I had cooked dinner and settled in to watch a movie. Then I saw it, a shadow at the end of the hallway. I froze, telling myself it was my imagination. The shadow moved independently, sliding along the walls, lingering in corners. Every time I turned on a light, it vanished. I checked every room, empty. The hallway seemed longer than before, twisting unnaturally. My stomach knotted with fear. I heard a whisper, "Don't look back." I ignored it. The shadow reappeared behind me in the living room, darker and more defined. I ran out of the house, slammed the door, and didn't return until the owners came back. When they returned, the house was normal. No shadow, no whispers. But I never forgot the feeling of being followed. And sometimes, at night, I dream I see it standing at the end of my hallway, just waiting. Story 10. The key that didn't fit. I bought an old, abandoned cabin in the woods, planning to renovate it. The place had been empty for years, and most doors were locked. One door upstairs had a key and a lockbox outside, but no matter how I tried, the key didn't turn. Late one night, I heard scratching from behind the door. At first, I thought it was an animal, but the scratching continued, more deliberate, almost like nails on wood. I tried the key again, still nothing. Then a voice whispered, "Let me out." I fled downstairs and didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the door was slightly open. I froze. I never found anyone inside, but the lock had turned from the inside. I sold the cabin weeks later. I still wonder, if I had opened it, what would have come out? Thank you for staying with me through these chilling stories of abandoned houses and unexplained horrors. Which one sent shivers down your spine the most? Comment below. I'd love to know which tale you couldn't stop thinking about. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a true horror story again. And remember, sometimes the scariest things aren't ghosts or monsters. They're the secrets left behind, waiting for someone curious enough to find them. Be careful, you never know what's lurking in the dark.